Hi, I'm Mandy. This is a video series where I show you some cool stuff about my year in I. Why'd you get into making books?
Allison and I were teaching at Sanson School, and Allison had the junior class, which was 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, and I think some 7-year-olds. And I was in charge of the next class, which was 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds. And we went for a trip to the Rangitikei River, and I took photographs, and we took photographs of things like that big machine, and that big machine was pulling rocks out of the river. It's called they took the rocks to the crusher, and we called this book River to Road. And then we had the children sorting the rocks, and we brought some rocks back, and here they are sorting the rocks. And there's the front cover Allison made, sorting the rocks. When we came back from the river, we got out of the cars because we travelled by car, and here we are loading up the car, and at the end it should be taking rocks away from bringing rocks back using the cars. And this is a handmade book, and that top piece Allison has drawn that with felt tip because her children were 5 and 6 and just starting to read. My kids were older, so I used biro, and mine's a whole paragraph. It's about the same thing. And then we did another whole book on machines. And there's how many copies do we have? Now that little girl, we went to this event and we saw the big machine, and I took a photograph, and she didn't know that was her father driving it. She didn't know what her father's job was until we went on this trip, and she said, "Oh, hello Dad," and her dad was driving that big machine. So that's part of the book on the machines. And then it says on the back, have you read all the others? So this was our first bit of bookmaking, and we've only got one copy. Then we read them to the children, 72 children. We read the stories to the children on Monday morning. All the children wanted to take the books home. 72 children. Me, I want to take a book home. How many people could take books home? Well, only 6 on the first night, because we'd had 2 others we haven't found. So we had 6 books, and 6 children took the books, and the next day they had to bring the books back, and 6 more children took them home. The next day 6 more, and it took 2 weeks or 3 weeks for all the children to take the books home to show their parents. So we thought, this was very popular. We enjoyed doing it. We might get an old printing press and we can make lots of copies. And we started with one of our first books. Well, this is our second book, and we made 100 copies of this story about the stick insect. And we called it the Garden Godzilla, and in those days Godzilla was a big monster. And this is level 2, Allison in the garden, planting the garlic to keep away the bugs. And next page, she comes inside and she's jumping around. Something's got up her skirt. What could it be? She rips her skirt off, and David and Russell think it's hilarious because she's got her red knickers. And the boys have a look inside. They're not frightened. What is it? Is it a weta? Is it a big spider? And they thought it was hilarious. They lay back laughing. It was a huge stick insect. And after we'd finished with the stick insect and showed each other, we then released it back into nature through the sliding door where the bricks are, and we let the stick insect go safely. And that was really the start of our making books, where we wrote the story, we set the type, we printed the story, and Allison cut the lino cuts, and we printed the lino cuts, and then the lino cuts were painted by hand using watercolour paint. There's just green paint for Allison's skirt on that one, and I think it's probably a bit of orange paint on this one, and blue for Russell's trousers and brown for David's trousers. So this was hand painted to get the colour. That's how we started. off.
Did the kids like the books?
Oh, the kids loved the books. They enjoyed them so much there was a queue for the children to take the books home. And we had to keep a record to be fair, and the children took the books home to show their parents, and we had 72 children and only 6 books, so it took a few days.
It's cool you made these books. Did the kids make their own books?
They certainly did. Now, Allison started in Manchester Street School with the juniors, the 5-year-olds, and they made a number of beautiful books where they created the stories and they set some type, and we made multiple copies, a number of copies. And then I did the same thing in intermediate normal, pins. Is that it? Pin-ins? And I think we published about 20 books of poetry where children would bring in their poetry and set the type, and some other children would come in and carve the lino and print the illustrations.
How long have you done this for, and why did you keep making books?
Right, well, we started in intermediate normal in 1972. That's 54 years ago. And we carried on making books ourselves and working with children because it was so enjoyable, and the children enjoyed making them, and so did adults. We had a great deal of fun, and we still do. We're making them today.
What other stuff do you make instead of just making books?
Well, we've made quite a few posters where they're giving a message. Like one of the posters is the one on the COVID, and Allison worked on that one, and I helped with the background. So I cut the plastic to make the COVID poster background of the yellow diagonal stripes, and Allison set the type for all the words. And when we finished printing it, we sent a copy to Jacinda Ardern, who was the Prime Minister, and to Dr. Ashley Bloomfield, who was the head doctor for New Zealand when COVID came along.
Did Jacinda Ardern get to see it?
She got a copy and she sent us a letter saying thank you very much, and so did the doctor did as well. He sent us another letter.
How do you work together to make the books?
Right, well, we tend to have one, Allison or myself will have the idea, and Allison will write it out, the story, or I'll write the story, and then usually Allison will do the illustrations because she loves the drawing and the carving, and I might do some of the colouring in or the painting, and Allison will do the painting to get the colour. I do nearly all of the setting of type, or Allison might do the setting of the type. I can do the setting of type, and I'm usually the one that actually does the physical printing, putting the words in a chase and putting those words into a press and printing the pages. And if we're doing colour, Allison likes to mix the colours on a glass plate, and she'll do the colour, and then I put it into the press, push the bed of the press underneath and pull the big lever to make the print, and then I hang those up to dry, and then we do one page at a time, one colour at a time. So if it's a red and blue colour plus the black type, that page will go through the press 3 times, and we have to wait for the ink to dry between each colour that we use. So it can take us a few weeks to create a book, depending on how many pages. Okay, here's some books from Allison's class using our wooden type from HOMEPRINT and liner cuts by Allison's children.